really.
So, Milo, this show really surprised a lot of people when it came on. You know, I mean, it grew in its audience as it led up to its finale, and people really responded to it well. Why do you think that is?
I think it's an audience's constant search for not motorcycles. I think it's an audience's constant search for human emotion, things they can relate to, anything that resembles their life. You know, the good, the bad, the ugly, and I think This Is Us was able to capture all of those moments for such a wide cross section of people, you know, outside of race or gender or ethnicity. That's race and ethnicity. Social standing, you know, anything. So I think it was accessible to people, and I know that's something that, you know, audiences are always kind of looking for.
Well, take us back to the beginning. What did you think when you first read the pilot?
I thought it was a beautiful story, and it was very simple. It was easy to understand, and it was something that it was unlike anything that I'd read. And when I was understanding who Jack was and where he was in his life and how he was just trying to be hopeful, and it was all very summed up with Dr. K's you can take the sourest lemons life has to offer and make something resembling lemonade speech. I saw how simple this man was and how simple his rules in life were, and I really kind of fell in love with his approach and what he wanted of his family and from his marriage, and it absolutely kind of paid off through the course of the year and each decade to decade, knowing where he'd gone in his journey as a man and a husband and a father.
I think it's fascinating to see in this show the cycle of life, and with your character in particular, learning to give up things in order to raise your children.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little about that?
I mean, there are a ton of sacrifice I think that anyone goes through when you have responsibility, whether it's a wife or a family or a company or friends that you're dutiful toward. So, you know, I think Jack's entire existence is defined by his family. First by his marriage and second by his kids. And the longer he spends with, you know, his wife and his kids, the more he falls enamored with them. So he'll do anything. So, you know, Jack's, I think, desire to have a company of his own or have some individuality, it just falls second to his duty, his loving duty to his wife and his kids. And I think it's something that he would do time and time again, is give everything he can to his wife and his kids.
Well, yeah, I think your dreams, as they were, do change
Yeah.
as soon as the children become.
I imagine they would, yeah.
In the show also is the knowledge of your impending death. It creates this kind of sense of melancholy, I guess, as you know what's going to happen inevitably. I was really sad to see him go.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Jack's death doesn't make my playing of him any different. It honestly doesn't. I think the only thing that is a great device for the story and for every character outside of Jack, it's something that is a ticking clock against him. You know, the audience knows that it's coming. His family does not, but the audience knows that it's coming. So I think it's an evaluation of life, where people will hopefully look at it's like we don't know when our own ends are going to come. So hopefully we're living our lives with kindness and love and giving to people that we're responsible for. But for me playing him, you know, it's funny. It's like it doesn't change how I portray the man at all, other than knowing that, you know, death is going to come for all of us.
Well, certainly the show has a lot of those themes in it. I mean, in particular with Sterling's character coming to terms with the death of his biological father, I mean, there's that great episode, but the only time you get to interact with any of the adult children.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little about that?
I mean, as an actor, just as a performer outside of character, what a great moment to act against Sterling. That's the sad truth about what this show is, though. It wasn't likely that I was going to work with Sterling or Chrissy or Justin, but now Fogelman had found a way, which gives me hope that, oh great, one day I'll be able to act with Chrissy, one day I'll be able to act with Justin. But it was something that, understanding the dynamic of an adopted father to an adopted son, and how much of an impact they'd had on one another, because it wasn't just Jack onto Randall impacted Jack as well, in so many moments that I know I played with the younger actors, from Lonnie Chavis in Jack's architecture job and all these different things, to working with Niles, who plays teenage Randall. But it all informs who this man is and how he relates to all of his kids, and so it's kind of twofold. It's the growth and the arc of the man Jack, but also what he is an actor. So wow, I get to work with 3 generations roughly of this character, and it's fun every step of the way.
And the one constant there is, of course, Mandy Moore.
Yeah.
You talk a little bit about that dynamic between the two of you.
Sometimes it's acting. It's fortunately there for us. I like her as a human being. She's a very close friend now, and her performance is honest and real, and I think she challenges me in ways, and she has ways of pulling things out of me that I know were unexpected, even to me. I'm lucky, to have a partnership, a husband and wife on camera, where your partner is looking at the work the same way you look at your work. It's very important, and they're supportive of you as you're supportive of them. It's I'm lucky. Like, now that we're on break, it's tough because I don't see or talk to her as much, and when we see each other, it's like, oh my God, I've missed you. How's things? What's going on? And so she really is the loveliest, kindest, most fiercely talented partner I could hope for.
Well, you feel the love between Jack and Rebecca, which is what makes the finale all the harder to watch.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that? Because it's the kind of intense emotional material that could become melodramatic.
The good news is the writing on the page, it doesn't dictate melodramatic notes. It's very real. It's very honest. It's very raw. It is painful. It's not something that you're thinking about this over performance. You don't have to perform. As long as you show up and you know the words and you say the words, an honest performance is going to come out. So, and I know that Fogelman is really on top of the editing and the choices, and sometimes Mandy and I have to go so far in one direction to be pulled back to a more real frequency, but I think it's all in the writing. There's not much melodramedy.
Melodrama, yeah.
Melodramatic notes that are going to happen with the words that we're given. They don't elicit something that's like, okay, come on, that's, yeah. You've gone over the edge with how far you're emoting. So,
to that end, what were some moments from this season that you were particularly proud of, or moments that were particularly difficult for you?
The last episode, really proud of the last episode. I think covering the bases of, Jack in his 20s and Jack in his 50s, and making them have the same heart, but just 30-year time span, or almost 30 years, 25-year time span. it was a challenge, but it was also a fun challenge. And it was very satisfying as an actor to play a younger, more hopeful, possibly walking down a darker path man to a guy who had now made some mistakes and was fighting for his marriage. Those were challenging and rewarding moments, but I almost feel like the reward comes out of the challenge. So every day on set, just even in the funner moments like the pool episode or the birthday episode, where you're having fun with your kids, but the challenge being, make it real. It's deeply satisfying at the end of every episode.
The show really does do a good job of charting the changing times. Is it surreal at all to be doing scenes in time periods that you grew up in or lived through, and it's portrayed as period,
Yeah.
I get that when I'm watching the show sometimes. I think I grew up in the 90s and I think, it's not a period.
That was my childhood.
Yeah.
Same thing with the 80s for me. It's like I remember the 80s. I very much remember being a kid running around, birthday parties and swimming pools and homework and all that kind of stuff, and the clothes, and my dad walking out the door in a briefcase and my mom picking us up from school, and I remember all this stuff. So it makes me feel closer to my own parents and my sisters and our upbringing, knowing that I'm the adult version in my childhood upbringing, in the era of my childhood upbringing.
You guys have a really big fan base. When people come up to you and they talk about the impact that the show has had on you, how does that make you feel?
Humbled. Really humbles me to know that the work that we're doing on the show is impacting people on a deeper level than just entertainment. To know that someone is week in and week out watching this show and learning something not only about our characters but about themselves that they can apply to their own life. Again, it's that may be the biggest reward in the process of this show, is that we are allowing people to look at their own lives and see hope and see kindness and see love and see these challenges that we all run up against, and if someone else can make it through, well, then you can make it through.
Have you learned anything about yourself from this show?
I'm sure I have, but I'll uncover those I think probably over the life of the show.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, have you gotten any, I don't want spoilers or anything like that, but have you guys gotten scripts for season 2 yet?
No scripts for season 2 yet. We go back to production in a couple months.
Okay.
But I have had a couple sit-downs with Fogelman and Elizabeth Berger and Isaac Aptaker, and kind of heard a few things that were discussed going into season 2. And the good news is it's all very much in keeping with what the first season was. And I think that's a tough thing for a sophomore season of a show that was so well received, is living up to what that first season was. And sometimes people decide to go bigger or reach wider, but all you really need to do is follow the same formula, but just tell different stories. And in the conversations I've had with the bosses that be, that seems like what's going to happen.
Well, that brings up something interesting, is that, this show, its drama is predicated on tiny moments, life moments.
Yeah.
It's not like a courtroom drama or
Yeah.
Law and Order. Can you talk a little bit about that, about finding the drama in those little human moments?
Our existence as people is a series of little moments, I've got a friend who worked in the FBI, and I think everybody sees the TV version of the FBI and kicking in doors in the chase, and he says it's not like that. A lot of the times you're at a desk or you're living your life, and if you're waiting for those big moments, well, then you're missing all the little ones. And I think that's something nice that Fogelman and the writers have been able to do, is take these small moments and understand that the small ones are the bigger impact than the big moments. Because the big moments are just the preparation within the small moments, and facing your life. So I think it's a great display again of what we all live and how we all live, and what we can take from entertainment and plug into our own lives to hopefully have, again, like a successful life.
Well, take us on to the set then. I mean, what each episode is kind of broken up into these multiple storylines with a couple of exceptions. Take us through the process of an episode.
Sometimes there's a table read, sometimes there's not. Sometimes we're fighting to get a script so we can get to work on it early. Sometimes, we get it within a couple days before we start. But the process itself is pretty standard to filmmaking, to TV making. You're not always shooting in the order of the pages in the script. You're jumping around from an outside scene to several days on a stage, location where maybe you're working in one decade's clothing, and sometimes you're working in another the next day or the next scene. So there are a lot of physical changes that go on for myself and Mandy, especially with our stuff in the past and her stuff in the present day. But it's kind of passing the baton, between scenes and characters and actors and crew, to accomplish in 8 days one episode. But it is the funnest place to be. You're in this world where you all deserve to be there. Every single person, from the actors to the crew, camera, grips and electrics and crafty, and the writers, and just everything that's the support crew. You all deserve to be there, and there's a good feeling of camaraderie when you are all there together. And I know it on our set. I can look around and see the happiness from this job, because it's not only talented, but it's a hard-working crew, and everyone gets along with one another, and it's just, set is the best place to be, and this may be one of the best in my career.
It's something you shoot these in 8 days. I mean, there's such a high quality to the production that is indicative of the way that television is now. Not just in terms of production, but in terms of storytelling. Now, you've been in TV for a while, been in movies, you've directed some stuff. Is it a good time to work in television right now?
I think it's a great time to work in television. It's in my mind, it's never not been a great time to work in TV. I look at television, movies, digital, all the same. It's storytelling. And if you're so fortunate to be able to tell a story, it doesn't matter where you're telling it, 40 feet tall on a movie theater or in people's homes. That being said, there are a lot of platforms to watch, a lot of programs, and I know I'm on one of the hits of the year, and I'm humbled and flattered and excited to be there, but I truly applaud anybody that's in the television business and can get anything made and anything on the air, because it's a difficult process at times, but it's one that's fun. It's fun to be a storyteller.
Well, Milo, thank you so much.
Absolutely,
Congratulations.
Zach. Thanks, brother.
You're welcome.
Pleasure, man. Always good seeing you.